The next one is power dissipation. So since we know that we are studying power amplifiers, or we also call it as large signal amplifiers, where the amplification takes place for a larger extent. So obviously the heat dissipation will be there. That's what we have discussed, that we will be having heat sinks to absorb the excess heat which is being produced. So now here we are going to just discuss about how this power dissipation is being calculated. Basically, this power dissipation is the difference between the DC input power and AC output power, which is across the active device. I mean, across the load of the active device. That is PD, it is the power dissipation. So PDC, it is power due to the DC, and PAC, this is the power which is delivered across the load. So it is the difference between DC input power and AC output power developed across the load in active device. So heat is dissipated when large signal is being processed. So this heat dissipation, for this heat dissipation, there is some power which is responsible. That power is known as power dissipation power, PD. So PD is the power which is responsible to produce that excess heat while processing the given input signal. Suppose, let us assume that there is no AC signal. We don't have any AC signal. Then obviously there will be no AC output. We'll be not having any AC output. When we don't have AC input signal, obviously there is no AC output signal. So during that time, we can take PAC is equal to 0. So when PAC is equal to 0, the above equation becomes PD is equal to PDC, which is the maximum power dissipation. That means whenever you are not going to give any input signal, but you are switching on the power amplifier, but you are not going to give any input signal, during that time, whatever the DC power which is existing, that itself will be dissipated in the form of heat. So in other words, the entire DC power will be dissipated in the active device when transistor is operated under zero AC conditions. So under zero AC condition, entire DC power will be dissipated. So care has to be taken to see that dissipation will not be equal to PD is equal to PDC below the, even PD is equal to PDC occurs also, there is some threshold or there is some limit. If it exceeds that limit, then it is going to derate the device. The same way what we had, if you remember, for the basic electronics first module while studying semiconductor diodes, we have a parameter called derating factor, derating factor of a diode, and all we had discussed a topic there. So the same way here also for the transistor also, the if the power dissipation is going to cross the threshold, then it is going to derate that device, derate that transistor, and we might lose the transistor also. Even though we tell these transistors are having heat sinks and all, but still there is some limitations for that. So if you are crossing that limit, obviously you are going to lose the device. So power dissipation, it is the difference between DC power input and AC power output developed across the load in active devices. So this is power dissipation. Coming to the next topic, it's the merits of the series fed class amplifier. So as soon as we see the circuit, the first thing that comes to our mind is the circuit is simple. That means it is not bulky, and also it is cheap. May I know why the circuit becomes cheap? I mean, with respect to the cost, any idea? What makes a series fed class amplifier cheap or less costlier compared to any other amplifiers? Here, RC itself is replaced by RL. So you are avoiding the extra resistors which are required, and also you are not going to use any transformer less. This circuit is transformer less, because the next kind of series fed class A amplifier which we are studying is transformer coupled class A amplifier. In that transformer coupled class A amplifier, we are going to use transformer. Automatically the circuit becomes bulky, and when you are using transformer, obviously the cost will increase. And one more advantage what we are having is the amplifier is easy to design. See, we don't have much things here to design. It is just a fixed biasing uh, design. By applying KVL, we can get the required results, and it is very compact. So these are the merits of the series fed class A amplifier. Looking on to the demerits, we have a lot of demerits with respect to this. Can anyone tell me demerit for this?
Sir, losses, sir.
Losses.
Efficiency is very less, so harmonic losses are high.
Yes, very good. Efficiency is very less. So this is one of the major demerit or the drawback which we are having. And since the efficiency is very less, obviously power dissipation is more. So we are having more amount of heat is being generated. Power dissipation is more. And also here, since it is dissipating more power, you need higher end heat sinks to absorb the extra the heat which is being dissipated. You need a higher end heat sinks, which is one of the major drawback which we are having. And also one more thing, the output impedance of this series fed class A amplifier is high. Class A amplifier is high. But you know that for an amplifier, usually we need input impedance should be high and output impedance should be less. But here the output impedance is more, hence impedance matching is not going to occur here. That is one of the drawback. And also you can see in the circuit, as we are telling, the series fed class A amplifier, it has series. Why is the term series fed?
The
I repeatedly told that. Yeah. Yeah, resistance and the load both are same. RC and RL are same. That means RC is replaced by RL. So here you can see, if I see the output part of the circuit, see here we are having plus VCC. This is going to give DC signal, and here we are getting AC signal which is amplified. So across RL, the load resistance RL, both AC and DC are going to mix up. So we can tell that there is no isolation. There is no isolation between AC and DC power. Both, because the DC power is also delivered across this load, AC power is also delivered across this load. So there is no isolation between AC and DC power. So output we might get, we will be getting the mixture of AC and DC. Because you can tell me you can use capacitor, but here you cannot use capacitor because directly you are already connecting the device. The capacitor is used before connecting to the device. What we were doing in the earlier amplifiers was, RL was here. Before giving to the RL, we used to connect one capacitor. But here, since the collector resistance itself is a load, your device, whatever you want to connect, suppose you are connecting a speaker, you are connecting your speaker directly to this position, where your speaker itself will act as a collector resistance. So there is no isolation between AC and DC. These are all the different drawbacks which we have in this series fed class A amplifier. Also, the one of the major drawback is it has large number of harmonics. So it has large number of harmonics, which leads for harmonic distortion. So the output is not clear. It will be having large amount of distortion. In the simple words, harmonic means the extra signals which are present at the output, which were not present at the input. Those are all harmonics. We were expecting a single amplified version of the input, but along with the amplified version of the input, I'm having some more extra signals. So which leads for distortion, harmonic distortion. So harmonic distortion can be defined as, it is the presence of frequency components in the output waveform which are not present at input signal. This is called harmonic distortion. Next, we have one term called fundamental frequency. So here fundamental frequency means the component with frequency same as input signal is known as fundamental frequency. Suppose you are giving this signal at the input, at the output you are getting amplified version, but the frequency what you are having here, the same frequency you are getting here. Frequency is not going to be changed, only the amplitude is going to change. Then we tell that it is retaining the fundamental frequency, or it is the original frequency of the input signal. So component with frequency same as input signal is known as fundamental frequency. Then what do you mean by harmonics? Those are all the additional frequency components which are integer multiple of fundamental frequency. So they are the integer multiples of fundamental frequency. If you take this as your output, you are getting this signal. This is your output signal. So this is our signal with fundamental frequency. The same frequency what we have given at the input, we are getting. Along with this, we get one more signal like this. The first signal which is present after the fundamental frequency is known as first harmonic. Next, again you have one more signal which is having different frequency, that is known as second harmonic. So the extra signals which we are getting at the output are known as the harmonics. So based on that, first harmonic, second harmonic, third harmonics, see, we can have n harmonics. That means if you have n harmonics, that indicates whatever the output you are getting, it is completely distorted. It is not clear. It is completely distorted. It is having n number of harmonics, means n number of unwanted signals are added up at the output. So this is how we are going to consider the harmonics part. So after this, we have to derive an expression for second harmonics. First, there are two derivation. One is considering the second harmonic, and the other one is considering the fifth order or n harmonics. So n harmonics means you will be having n number of harmonics. So both derivations are there, but majority of the times they'll be asking the second order harmonics only. But the procedure for both is same. Okay. Second harmonic distortion. So in the second harmonic distortion, how do we analyze it graphically? So that is by looking into the waveform, we analyzed that there are some extra waveforms we are having. So if you want to look into this graphically, then we are going to plot a graph of IC versus IB. This is the collector current, this is the base current. See, for an active device in the sense amplifier, so we know that IC is beta times IB. According to this, if IB is increasing, IC is also increasing linearly, right? So you have to call it as a linear device because your output is increasing with respect to input. So we should get a linear curve, but actually we'll not get this linear curve. Instead, we will be getting a parabolic curve like this. This is the parabolic dynamic curve. This is linear dynamic curve. So this is the dotted lines is the expected graph what we are supposed to get, but we are getting this parabolic dynamic curve. That shows it is having lot of losses. So after certain amount of the base current is passed, then only your IC is going to increase. That too, it is increasing very slowly. But theoretically, it has to increase linearly, but it is increasing in a parabolic manner. So from this, we can understand the device what we have considered. It is not an active. It should act as an active device, but it is not acting like a active device, or it is not a linear device. So this results in the second harmonic distortion, as well as this is also known as non-linear distortion. So there are different names: non-linear distortion, and it is also called as amplitude distortion. Okay, these are the names. So what do you call this graph as? This graph is parabolic dynamic curves for active device. So now we have to derive the expression for finding the second harmonic, first harmonic, second harmonic, and all. So for that, we will first consider series fed class A amplifier, and we are going to take the equation IC is equal to K1 IB plus K2 IB square. So this is some of the currents which are being given. So K1, K2 are the constants. These are the constant in the sense like beta. It is a constant. We are not mentioning it as beta. So we are taking it as some constant, known value. IB square. Here IB square indicates the the current in the second iteration. So now let us consider the input signal as IB is equal to IB max cos omega t. IB is equal to IB max cos omega t. So take this as equation number 1. Okay. Now, if you get confusion, you can make it as small b also. You can make small b. Anyhow, this is small IC because we are talking about AC. So you can make this also small IB. So this small IB or the input base current which is being supplied is given by this equation. You can take IB max sin omega t, or you can take even IB max sin omega t. It is left to you. Whatever the kind of curve you are considering, it is left to you. You can even take a sine wave. But why we have taken the cos wave is we have to analyze at different points. For every 90-degree of the cycle, we have to analyze what is the value. That's why we have taken cos, because it will be easy to analyze the different 90-degree points in the waveform. That's why we have taken the cos here instead of sine. Now take this as equation 1 and take this as equation number 2. So it is a long derivation, so we have to keep on doing it. So we'll substitute. Once you are going to substitute in this, the equation becomes IC is equal to K1 IB max cos omega t plus K2 IB max square cos square omega t. Now we will simplify these steps. So K1 IB max cos omega t plus K2 into I square B max. We have an equation for cos square omega t in trigonometry, right? It is 1 plus cos 2 omega t divided by 2. This is the equation we are having. Now again multiply this, we get K1 IB max cos omega t. Here IB max indicate we are considering the maximum base current to analyze, plus K2 I square B max divided by 2 plus K2 into I square B max into cos 2 omega t. So we have just multiplied, and here we will have 2. Once you are multiplying this, now rearrange this in a different in the increasing order. We have to keep it, because we are having cos omega t here, we don't have cos omega t here, again we are having cos 2 omega t. So we have to arrange it in 0, 1, 2 in that format. So IC is equal to K2, we just rearrange, or we dislocate it, IB square max by 2 plus K1 IB max cos omega t plus K2 I square B max cos 2 omega t by 2. Now take this as equation number 3. In our module 1, we have already studied the total instantaneous, about the total instantaneous current. What do you mean by total instantaneous current?
It contains both AC and DC components.
Yes, it contains both AC and DC component. When you are going to superimpose the quiescent collector current and AC current, during that time you are going to get the mixture of AC and DC. That current is known as instantaneous current. And we have already discussed how to represent the instantaneous current and how to represent AC current, DC current and all. Based on that, now when AC current is superimposed on DC current, we get the I capital C. We have already studied I capital C indicates it is instantaneous current. Capital I capital C indicates DC. Small I small c indicates AC. This is AC, this is DC. Now whatever we have derived here, this equation is for what? Is it for AC or DC?
DC, sir.
Yes. So we have done for the AC. So now in the place of AC, this small I small c, substitute this equation. So on substitution we get IC plus half K2 I square B max plus K1 IB max cos omega t plus K2 I square B max cos 2 omega t divided by 2. Now take this as equation number 4. Now to simplify, to have this equation in a simplified manner, we just declare some variables for some part of the equation. So those variables are we are going to take B naught for half K2 I square B max. For this we take it as B2, and we have B1 is equal to K1 IB max. Yeah, for this part we are taking, and B2 is equal to half K2 I square B max. These are the three variables we are going to consider. Now we'll substitute all these three in the above equation. So substitute it, what you will get? So on substitution, this is B0, B1, B2. So on substitution, we get IC is equal to capital IC plus B0 plus B1 cos omega t plus B2 cos 2 omega t. So this is our fifth equation. See, here we are having DC, which is superimposed, and here we are just having some variable. But in this term, we are going to have omega. What does omega give? We know that omega is 2 pi f, and you can see that it is only f we are having. So this is our fundamental frequency. But you look into the next one, it is 2 omega. 2 omega means what will be the value of f? Here for 1 omega it is f, and we call it as fundamental frequency. What happens to this 2 omega? What will be the value of frequency?
4f, sir.
So 2 times the fundamental frequency.
2 times of 2f, right? It is 2f. That means the frequency has to remain same for different components. The frequency has to remain same. But here the frequency has been changed. It is 2f. Don't consider this 2 pi part. Just 2 into f, because this 2 we are considering. It is twice. So this indicates that second harmonic is present. It indicates second harmonic is present. Because in this first term, second, third, fourth, in the fourth term, we are having frequency twice the applied frequency. Hence, it is known as second harmonic term. So after this, we are going to write the graph, VI characteristics, and then we are going to analyze it. This is VCE, this is IC, and we have a DC load line here. And let us assume that this is our Q point. Here we are having our Q point. And these are all the different values we are having. So IB0, IB1, IB2, like that will be having. For different value of base current, you are getting different collector currents. So now we will take the current waveform. Since we have assumed cos omega, you should take cos wave. So here the markings are very important. Now what you call this angle? What is the value of this angle?
So which
0
angle, sir?
degrees. Sir.
This one, 0,
Yes, sir.
0. Now, what is the
Pi by
value of
2.
this angle? Pi by 2. Now, what is the value of this angle? This angle in the sense here we'll measure, no, because it is along
3 pi.
x-axis. We consider
3 pi by 2.
3 pi by 2. This one,
Pi.
pi
Pi, sir.
is 180 degree, no? This here till here you have 180 degree. Pi, this point 3 pi by 2.
Pi by 2.
This point 2 pi. Okay. So the same way we are going to plot for the voltage. So the same markings you'll be having. Pi by 2, this is 2 pi, this is 0, will be the same. And this point is VCC, and this point, you know, it is saturation current. After this, we have to look into the graph, VI characteristics graph, and we have to plot. We have to substitute the values. When omega t, see, you know that omega t or theta both are same, right? You can represent a wave by cos theta or cos omega t. Do you agree? Any signal can be represented as by using sin theta
Yes,
or
sir.
sin omega t.
Yes, sir.
Same way, cos theta, cos omega t. So here we have considered omega we have considered. So now when omega t is equal to 0, that indicates theta is 0. Omega t is 0, and we know this peak is I max and this peak is I min. And this, the value across this is, since it's the Q point, for this Q point, the current, quiescent collector current, this quiescent collector current will be AC or DC? Quiescent collector current will be AC or DC?
That will be DC, sir.
Why it will be DC? Why not AC?
Sir, because VCC fixes the Q point, sir, and VCC is a DC voltage.
Yeah, VCC fine. I'm asking about IC.
Because
IC is a
the
your answer is
base,
correct. IC
current
is,
fixes
yeah,
the
tell me.
IC current, sir. That's why it will be DC.
Hmm.
Can't vary.
Yeah. So here IC is the Q point is because of DC, not because of AC. So at this point, whatever the current we are marking is our DC signal. That's why I have written capital IC. It's capital IC. But this is, we are plotting overall, it is by considering the instantaneous current. So small I, capital C, and VCE, they are considered. So now when omega t is equal to 0, what will be the value of IC? When omega t was 0, what is the value of IC? At this point, what is the value? Just looking this point. So see, for angle you have to see x-axis. For current you need to see y-axis. So at 0 degree, what is the value of the current? Collector current?
Sir, it is capital IC
I
plus
max,
B1
sir.
plus B2, sir.
No,
Plus
no,
B0.
just Imax. Just look into
Imax.
this.
IMAX. Yes, sir.
This just Imax.
Okay, okay, yes,
So
sir.
take this as equation 6. Then when omega t is equal to pi by 2, just looking at pi by 2. This is pi by 2 value. At pi by 2, what is the value of the current? See, when the curve is crossing this,
0.
it is not 0. See what you are having at this point.
IC, sir.
IC. It is IC because at this point only we are having quiescent collector current. So at pi by 2 we are having IC. Take this as equation 7. Then omega t is equal to pi. For omega t is equal to pi, that is at pi, what is the angle? I told you to look it for the y-axis. At pi, what is the value of the current?
I mean.
I mean.
Minimum, sir.
I c is equal to I mean. Take this as equation 8. So now substitute 6 in 5. When you substitute 6 in 5, what is the equation you'll get? That means you need to substitute omega t value, and in the place of IC you need to substitute Imax. So if you substitute, you get Imax is equal to IC plus B0 plus B1, because cos 0 is 1, that's why we are having B1 only, plus B2, again 2 into 0, cos 0. So take this as equation 9. The same way, substitute for omega t is equal to pi by 2 and omega t is equal to pi. So now when you substitute 7 in 5, we get, in the place of IC we substituted, so we get IC is equal to IC plus B0. So what happens to this for cos pi by 2?
It
0.
becomes 0, sir.
0,
IC
sir.
equals to IC.
0. Here cos 2 omega t, it becomes cos pi. So obviously it becomes minus B2. Minus B2, negative B2. So this is equation number 10. Now again we have one more value. Substitute 8 in 5.
So we can cancel IC. No,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. We can cancel these two and we'll equate B0 is equal to B2. That okay, we'll do it here only, no issues. So you can cancel this and B0 is equal to B2. So this is our 11th equation. So now if you substitute 8 in 5, what you'll get? This value. We get I mean is equal to IC plus B0 minus B1 plus B2. Take this as equation number 12. Now subtract equation 9 minus 12. So subtract these two. Let's see what we are going to get.
So we get 2B1, sir.
We get 2B1. So by
Imax
rearranging
minus I mean equals to 2B1.
2B1. So on rearranging it, what we can get the value for
B1.
B1.
Imax minus I mean by 2.
Yeah. So B1 is equal to Imax minus I mean by 2.
So that is nothing but IM, no, sir. Sir, Imax minus Imin by 2 is nothing but IM.
Yeah, yeah. So B1 you'll get I max minus I min by 2. So take this as equation number 13. So after this, now substitute whatever the value, still we need to find B0 and B1. Substitute equation 13, equation 11, in 12. So this 13 and 11 you are going to substitute in 12. So on substitution we get I min is equal to IC plus B2 minus I max minus I min by 2 plus B2. So now by again by you can add these two, and on rearranging you get 2B2 is equal to I min minus IC plus I max minus I min by 2. Now if you take out the comma, if you take the LCM and if you simplify it, you'll be getting I max plus I min minus 2 IC divided by 2. On the other side we are having 2B2. So finally P2 is equal to I max plus I min minus 2 IC divided by 4. So take this as equation number 14. So when B2 is obtained, obviously you'll get one more value. What is that one more value?
B0.
B0, sir.
B0.
They're equal.
So they are equal. So B0 and B2 are equal. So now the next question is what we are going to do with these values. So we are done with the derivation. B2 is equal to B0. So obviously you'll have the same value. See, these values are used to find the second harmonic distortion. Second harmonic distortion is represented as D2. It is found by B2 by B1 into 100. In terms of percentage, we are going to find. B1 is our fundamental component. B2 is our second harmonic. See, B2. B2 is with second harmonic. B1 is with fundamental frequency. So we will be getting how much variation it is having. That is known as second harmonic distortion. The method what we are using to find the second harmonic distortion till now, whatever we did, is known as 3-point method. It is very important to know this because once it was asked, derive the expression for a second harmonic distortion using 3-point method. Many of them were not knowing it is the name 3-point method. So they thought it is some out of syllabus question, but it is in the syllabus. Why it is called 3-point? Because you can see we have taken 3 points for substitution. What are the 3 points we have taken in substitution? 0, pi by 2, pi. Right? We have taken 3 points and we have derived the equation. And also we have taken 3 parameter, 3 variables B0, B1, B2. That's why it is known as 3-point method. Remember this. Okay. So that's about today's class. We'll continue the rest in the next class.